All right, I'm delighted to be joined now by Irish athletes, hurdler Sarah Lavin and diver Oliver Dingley, following the launch of the Olympic Federation of Ireland's new Olympic Schools Challenge, Road to Tokyo. The interactive challenge will engage with school children, encouraging them to get more active and teaching them about Tokyo and the Olympic Games. The challenge is part of the Olympic Federation of Ireland's Dare to Believe schools programme, which is proudly supported by FBD and sees Team Ireland calling on schools and families across the country to join them on the road to Tokyo from May 4th to May 31st. And you can find out more at www.daretobelieve.ie/road to Tokyo. Sarah Lavin and Oliver Dingley, morning. How are you guys?
Good morning. How are you?
Keeping well, thanks. Keeping well. Sarah, every time I turn around at the moment, I see you're off somewhere in another corner of the world, breaking your personal best. So you're having a pretty decent time of it in recent months.
Yeah, it's been really, especially given Olympic year like that, it's the dream to be in the shape of your life. And I'm so grateful because a year ago I was in a totally different position. So yeah, it's been really, really strange, but great at the same time. And just so grateful to have the opportunity and also just to be fit, healthy, and hopefully heading in the right direction and securing a seat on the coveted plane this summer.
I know you had a very impressive European indoors in Torrin recently as well, and really impressive in the semi-final. And even Derval O'Rourke, I saw commenting afterwards saying it was it's a big senior breakthrough for you. And what's it like to have someone like Derval, who's so established in the sport, saying things like that about your performances?
Oh, amazing. I mean, Derval was a world champion. She set the bar so high for everybody to come after her, and that's brilliant. And obviously for her kind words is so appreciated. But yeah, like it was a good championship. To finish 9th overall, miss out on one spot by the final. But at the same time, I think that really I would have loved to have been in the final. And obviously you want to be hunting for medals, that's why we train so hard, and that's why we do what we do. So I had to be so, like, to have my lifetime best, 2 of them at the same championships, be competitive with these great girls. It was great, but you always want more, and that's the natural athlete in everybody, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Oliver, for you, I mean, you're flying along as well, and I remember reading there was a piece on you in the Sunday Independent just at the weekend there, and kind of talking about how this Olympic delay has given you another year to get better. I know for some athletes maybe they saw it as a negative thing, but you seem to be kind of eking out the positives that you can from this postponed Olympics.
Yeah, I'm getting jealous listening to Sarah there. The furthest I've been is Blanchardstown, so I live in Blanchardstown, so I'm looking forward to going out to my qualifying event. The Olympics, I didn't get too caught up in it. I wasn't too disappointed at the time. If anything, I really felt the positives from it. It gave me another year to get better, and I feel like I have got better. I've been able to use those months to my advantage, and currently right now I'm in some really, really good form as I go into my own Olympic trials.
I mean, you were the first, as we all know, you've been in off the ball a few times, and first Irish diver in 48 years to compete at the Olympics when you took part in Rio, and really impressive 8th place there as well, and beating out some of the top guys in the world as well. So what was that experience like for you? I know this summer is going to be different in terms of, no real Olympic Village experience. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, the whole Olympic experience was absolutely amazing. It's kind of hard to think what it's going to be this time round, but I really made the most of it. I was an individual athlete, so there was no other divers on the team. So I really just was left to my own devices. So I sat in the food hall where you get unlimited food for most of the time, chatting to anybody who would listen. I would go to watch as many sporting events as possible. And I really, really enjoyed the whole Olympic experience. And I was there actually for nearly 15 days before I even started to compete. So by the time it came to competing, I felt like I was ready. And to get to stand there on the diving board at the Olympic Games, I remember watching my first Olympics, really, Athens 2004. I actually got to dive against some of the guys who were in Athens 2004. And it really felt like what dreams are made of. And then to compete in an Olympic final, top 12 in the world, outdoor diving pool, under the floodlights, packed out arena. Amazing experience, and one I will never forget as well.
Yeah, an incredible journey. I can only imagine. Sarah, for you, like
listening to Ollie.
Yeah, I know. Well, like myself and Oliver's been, as he says, at the furthest he's been is Blanchardstown. I've only been here in my attic in Monaghan, which has been loads of fun. But you've managed to do a little bit of traveling. You've had you've been in the Czech Republic and Poland and different places. You've had cancelled flights and COVID tests. What has the last number of months been like in terms of the traveling experience?
Oh, the travel has been awful. It's just so stressful because loads of flights obviously keep getting cancelled. You have to go certain countries like Amsterdam, you need another test 4 hours before you enter. Just buckets and buckets of tests. My nose, I think, is like actually become like accustomed to these tests, which is not good. But yeah, like every country is the same as here. I think people, even talking to friends, they're like, oh, you're so lucky you get to go travel, but like it's not travel like anybody knows it before. I mean, everywhere is closed down in the whole world and everywhere is masked up and there's nothing going on anywhere. So really you're just trying to stay really, really safe, not contact COVID obviously, because you don't want to get stuck in a different country for 2 weeks and obviously the repercussions as an athlete. So yeah, it's challenging, but it also means that the running is the really easy part. So when we actually get to the line, I think I'm just grateful again. I think gratitude is just the overwhelming emotion at the moment, and just lining up on the line and just putting out your best performance because you've overcome so much to even just get to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different, but adapting, I think, isn't like everybody else.
I mean, you have extra motivation, Sarah, given you missed out on Rio in 2016, so you'll be extra keen to get there. I mean, for people who don't know your backstory, I know you're a physiotherapy student in UCD, and what for people who might not have been familiar with Red S, what is relative energy deficiency in sport, and how did it impact your preparations in the build up to what you hoped would be your first Olympics 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically when you're slightly under fueling over a long period of time and then your body starts not functioning optimally, which obviously is not ideal for an athlete. And sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's like unconscious, and it can be in the background there and something that's accumulating. Maybe like, say if you increase your intensity of training and suddenly you end up being 2 or 3 calories short in a day, 200 calories short in a day, and then over a week that accumulates, and then over time. So it can happen, I think, to a young athlete really, really easily. And it is an important message to get out there, but it's not also something that can be conscious. And I think that's really important to share, because I think it will reach a lot more people, that sometimes it's actually unconsciously someone's doing it, and it happens that then there's a dip in performance or a delay in the transition from junior to senior, and can happen to boys and girls. And I just think it was an important message to share. At this moment then, I think that like I'm just so focused on competition, and I learned so much about myself in that transition from junior to senior. And at this point, I think I'm just so conscious of like my optimal performance, getting fitter, getting faster, getting my lead leg and my trail leg. They're the things that I'm so focused on at the moment. But I do agree that like it is important to share and to create, I suppose, the awareness for other people out there.
Like that's a really interesting point to touch on, like the importance of sharing these things, because I know we had Annalise Murphy on Off the Ball back in, I think it was in January of this year, and she spoke about, as a 19-year-old having these diet competitions, being told that she wasn't the right weight maybe for the boat, and her coach having to putting her on diet competitions, which just sounds crazy and dangerous now looking back. And then you've the Paralympic swimmer Ellen Keane tweeting this week as well about, she tweeted and she said, I just had a lovely conversation with my male physio about periods, which is completely normal, because periods are completely normal. Do you think like athletes are getting, which is great to see, and yourself included, far more open about talking about these things, which is so important?
Yeah, you see, I think like women in sport is actually still relatively quite new. Like my grandmother, which isn't only 2 generations ago, probably would have been, it would have probably been frowned upon when when women were leaving the house to go out and play sports. So everything is still so new. And by entering this whole topic of women in sport, it opens a whole other, because it's half the population that were up until 2 generations ago probably not as immersed in such a high performance culture, and such things became so relevant in conversation. So yeah, I mean, amazing that I think everyone's getting so open, and really I think it'll just help the next generation, because starting at a more open platform, otherwise we're just going to keep going around, I suppose, and not passing on our mistakes, and the next generation can't get better until we share more and become more open. And I think that's why I'm open, is because I want to make sure that the next generation behind me know what to do, or have learned from a mistake that I made, so they don't have to make them, that kind of way. So I think, yeah, Ellen and Annalise, they're amazing ambassadors for women, not just women in sport, and yeah, like that's just really lovely, I think, to hear that they're so open.
Absolutely. And like Oliver, you as well, like even from reading that piece on Sunday, and I know you've spoken about it before, you've been very candid and open and honest about your, issues with anxiety and with depression at different points. And remarkably, that I had something I hadn't realized, that World Cup 2018 World Cup performance, when you finished 7th, an incredible performance. And you were saying how that was at the height of a period of anxiety for you, which is incredible that you were able to do that. For someone maybe in a similar position who's maybe watching or listening to this today, who maybe doesn't know where to turn or who to talk to, what advice would you give to someone who's in that kind of position?
Yeah, I feel like this last year actually has really put a lot of things into perspective. How lucky we are to have these things around us. And for me, one thing that I found most helpful was communication. Communication could feel so hard sometimes. But also chatting to somebody can not just make the world a difference to yourself, but also to those around you. And there's one thing I learned, especially over this last year. This year especially has given me time to do things I wouldn't have done in the past. So, for example, I reached out to old school friends and got chatting to them. And if anything, it's really taught myself to be kind to myself. And I think that's really, really important across all spectrum of occupations. I know in sport, we're always looking for perfection, and sometimes we take that into our daily lives as well. So it's about kind of switching off.
Absolutely. And like I know you have studied in film and broadcasting as well, and this Life in a Bubble podcast is another element that which is, I'm sure, keeping you busy and focused. Do you find that's a good element to sort of vent and to speak and to talk about any topic that interests you, that having a podcast is something that can really help?
Yeah, so I actually study film and broadcasting at TU Dublin, and I actually specialise in radio I'm specialising in radio for my final year. And so a little side venture, me and a few friends thought we'd start a podcast called Life in a Bubble. And we're speaking to numerous people from different backgrounds. We've had sports people on, we've had photographers, we've had TV producers, and we chat about their lives really. And to narrow it down, I bring in 3 photos, they bring in 3 photos of kind of periods of their lives. They could be positive periods, it could be challenging periods. And we'll talk about why that photo means so much. And we talk about the journey behind that photo. So it could be a 3-week journey, it could be a 10-year journey, but we get to the bottom of why that photo means so much to them. And we've come across some really, really interesting open stories. Some have been funny, some have been heartbreaking, but all of them have brought their own little quirks to the podcast and interesting input into their own lives. And I found it absolutely amazing just sitting there listening to these people's stories. Everybody, I believe, has their own unique story. So it's great for me just to get there and listen to it. Absolutely.
No, keep doing it for sure. And Sarah, for you, like, as Oliver mentions, like the life of an individual sports person is slightly different to that of a team sports person. And, I think of people like boxers and golfers. I guess golfers who are golfing individually is one thing, and then they team up in the Ryder Cup and they have that kind of camaraderie and team spirit. Is it difficult for you at times to be the only person in your head, to be that, I guess, a single athlete without a team?
You see, it actually is. I know on the line, like, it's very individual, and you're there, and on the line, only you can control your performance 110%. But there's so many people that go in behind the scenes that you never feel that loneliness, I guess. That, like, I have the most amazing coach, training partners, physio, like the people that are surrounding me in my life, and even like friends and family that even when some of them don't have a clue of anything about running, and like that's amazing. And I don't think without any of them like fitting into parts of the puzzle that you'd be as happy in yourself. And I think that's what one thing like the whole COVID kind of brought to me as perspective was just like the basics of life and like what actually makes you so happy. And I hope that other people have experienced that with just more family time and even catching up. Obviously we haven't been able to meet up with people since Christmas, but even last summer, just meeting up with friends that we went to secondary school with, primary school with. And I think it's really lovely that just to know that actually, yeah, okay, everyone went off in their own paths, but we're all coming back from, we've all come, we're all coming back to the same place when we come into a pandemic. Home is still home, and I think that's what's been really refreshing, I think, about the last few months. Yeah. So people, I think, like, again, sorry, just totally off, like, hijacked your question there, but definitely, as much as I'm in a single lane and no one else can run there and jump over the barriers, there's such a team behind me. So, and of course then we've got the relay as well, the relay element. So we do kind of got that Ryder Cup with a lot less media attention, but still.
Which is a good thing usually,
Exactly.
Just to finish up then, guys, Sarah, what's the ambition then for the coming months? It's an Olympic year. It's a huge year for you personally. So what are your hopes now what are we at now? We're middle of April. So over the coming 3, 4, 5 months, what do you hope to achieve?
Well, obviously I want to be on the plane first and foremost. I'm just in by the skin of my teeth at the moment in the qualification. It's top 40 in the world, so obviously I want to push that on. They've got a good few races coming up kind of end of May and a lot of June. So yeah, hopefully they'll all go well. Obviously you want to be in the shape of your life and outperform yourself, and that's what my goal is. Yeah.
And Oliver, for yourself, it was 8th in Tokyo or in Rio. So what's the ambition for Tokyo?
Yeah, first and foremost, I need to qualify first, and I leave for my qualifying event at the end of this month. One chance to qualify. There'll be about 70 divers in my event, and top 18 get a spot at the Olympics. So, in effect, that's actually more stressful than the Olympic Games themselves. And hopefully, if I qualify, when I qualify, to go further than last time. So 8th last time at the Olympics. I would love to, enjoy the experience, and because I mean, it's been such a stretched out couple of years, not knowing what's going on, but to finally make it over there and to be at the Olympic Games, and then just to do a real good performance that I could be proud of. And, a PB is what we're always looking for. And a PB for me would definitely get me higher than 8th place.
Well, listen, best of luck to you both. We all wish you the very best of the coming months. Just to remind people as well that following the launch of the Olympic Federation of Ireland's new Olympic Schools Challenge, Road to Tokyo, this interactive challenge will engage school children, encouraging them to get more active as Oliver and Sarah, no doubt, and teaching them about Tokyo and the Olympic Games. It's part of the Olympic Federation of Ireland's Dare to Believe schools programme, proudly supported by FBD, and sees Team Ireland calling on schools and families across the country to join them on the road to Tokyo from May 4th to 31st. And find out more at www.daretobelieve.ie/road to Tokyo. Oliver Dingley and Sarah Lavin, best of luck over the coming months, and thanks for the chat this morning.